I want to talk about Brittany and Jax because
I
obviously,
thought you might.
yeah, we have to go there. Obviously, that's been kicked up a bunch recently.
I mean,
and
every day. Yesterday, this morning.
yeah, in part by the conversations that I had with each of them here, which is like sort of a preview of the show that we're going to unleash. But I know you have really strong feelings because you've been there for Brittany through all of this.
Yeah.
So tell me about your response, your reaction to some of the things that Jack said about Brittany trying to get back together, about how he's a changed person. What's your point of view, Kristen Doute?
It's just, it's typical Jax. It's the same Jax that I've known 17 years. It's the same Jax that the audience has watched on TV for the last 12 plus years. It's the Jax that starts with this much truth. Example on this podcast, sitting right here. He said, Brittany had texted me to come over or something or to hang out. There was truth to that. She was trying to give him a chance. She was trying to see the brighter side of things. And it was within a minute, he was like, hey, and then Brittany asked me to have drinks. Brittany asked me to come over for dinner. And he just kept building this lie because the way Jax works, if everyone hasn't figured this out, the truth is just never juicy enough for him. So he has to make it a little bit bigger. And he admits this about himself. And he knows that this is true. So all of a sudden ends up, Brittany's texting him to hook up. Have you ever heard Brittany Cartwright in her life say, hey, you want to come over for drinks? Brittany doesn't have drinks. Brittany does shots of tequila when she wants to get up, and that's it. So it's just why? Why do you have to lie over something so small? And every time she gives Jax a chance, he ruins it doing stuff like that. And then they're back at the bottom. And then things that have even happened over the last 48 hours. I mean, he can't get out of his own way. I mean, I was at Brittany's yesterday we were shooting something. And while we're in glam, I get a text from Jax. The same exact text I got from him maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Hey, so I know I've asked you this before, but do you have a therapist you could recommend? Because what, Jax? Don't bullshit somebody who knows this world very well. And then when he also was on this podcast saying he's a mental health advocate, who the hell do you think you are? I can't take anything that comes out of his mouth. The only thing that he said that was of any truth is that he's verbally abusive.
But it seems like this is a different version of Brittany. And so she has much more conviction.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I think that's, clear by what she said publicly, but also we see that across the second season of The Valley.
Oh, yeah.
And because her friends, obviously, with you leading the charge, as well as Zach and others, are trying to prop her up, and they want to make sure that she doesn't fall back into, just getting back together with Jax because she thinks that's what she's supposed to do.
For sure.
And
I mean, Cruz has so much to do with that. I think Cruz was the major, as he would be, because she's the best mother. I look up to her in so many ways, becoming a mother myself. Cruz is everything to her. And Cruz has some learning challenges, as we know. So he requires more attention, a little more work. So Brittany drops everything for that little boy. And is Jax a good dad? Of course he is. But can Jax get out of his own way in order to be a good dad first and foremost? That's the tricky part. Because Jax's anger issues and his need for control over Brittany's life and Brittany's choices and decisions that she makes, aside from Cruz, are still getting in the way of them being able to have a healthy co-parenting relationship. But Brittany has now not only become this strong mama bear, she's also oh, no. I get to be Brittany too. I get to go out and date. I get to be with someone one day who's going to treat me with respect the way that I deserve it to. And I get to be happy, which thank God for that.
If I can play devil's advocate just a little
Yeah.
bit.
Please
with,
do.
Jax, so I've only known him a couple of years. I'm much closer with Brittany. I think I made that apparent this season. And I think he is showing more than I've seen out of him actually, calling himself out, being more aware of how he is, because all I ever saw between him and Brittany was him being a douchebag to her, him just being an asshole. He was never sweet on her since I've been around. And now, he says he goes out of his way for her, and it just sad it took him this long to realize that's what you have to do for a healthy relationship, right? So him recognizing that, he's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's a step. It's not, a step of a marathon.
I think the broken part, though, like, it's kind of what I'm tired of seeing from Jax, also what I'm tired of seeing, even from, like, my friends or ex-friends that are in reality on Vanderpump or The Valley. It's like this victim mentality of, like, I'm so broken and I'm so down. Why isn't everyone just, like, going easier on me? Because I will tell you from my own perspective, what changed me and what made me step up and take responsibility for my own actions and the words that came out of my mouth was 10 years ago, and me making a really big mistake and everyone going, no, we're not going to give you that opportunity. In fact, we're done talking to you. And I had to prove myself through actions over time to be led in the good graces of the people that I wanted in my life and that wanted me in theirs. And I had to literally prove it. So for anyone, Jack specifically, to keep talking about being a work in progress and not doing anything about it, I think is what I'm tired of, and definitely what Brittany's tired of.
You referred to even the past 48 hours developments with Jax and Brittany, and tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah,
what happened?
I mean, without getting into like total detail, of course, it was just things like Brittany giving Jax more than an inch and saying, okay, you want to come to this thing for cruise. You want to come. Okay, great. Then you have to be at the house at this time. We have to be at this place at this time. And Jax just kind of taking his time, doing what he wants, not coming there on time, being in a terrible mood. Do I think Jax has depression issues? Of course. Is that horrible and very difficult for him? Absolutely. You got to get it together for the sake of your child. You cannot take it out on the mother of your child. Let it go until you get home when you can figure it out. He took it out on Brittany. And then it's like her phone's attached to the car, and then someone texts her that he doesn't like. You know what? You're divorced. Like, you're going through a divorce. You're doing what you do. She's doing what she does. And the way that he speaks to her and the abusive language that he uses, it all happened all over again. And Cruz is in the car. And then, as everyone saw on TMZ, he was in such a bad mood and in a bad place, he then gets in a little bit of a fender bender, and he's yelling and being explicit with this person because he just has these anger issues. So it was like, it never stops. It never stops. Do I think at some point he needs to give himself some grace? And I do. I think that's part of the healing process, is stop hating yourself so much. If he stops hating himself, he'll be able to ease up on that anxiety. He has to forgive himself, but he also has to do the work. And he's got to give Brittany some space. He can't, it's like he has this need to control, and he's got to let that go.
But it also goes back to the related point that you made, that you learned through your struggle, which is just that you have to put in the work, and other people aren't on your timeline.
Exactly.
And that's really hard.
And it's not the see, look what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Don't I deserve a pat on the back?
Right.
You don't deserve a pat on the back. You have to be able to give yourself that pat on the back and go, I know that I worked really hard. It's up to people if they want to forgive you.
Yeah.
And they might not. They might not ever. They might say, I don't want you in my life. It's going to be okay. Yeah. It's going to hurt, and it's going to be really difficult for a minute, but it's going to be fine.
So I think this is something. So I've done some therapy recently. I've been in. I do have some ups and downs, and I think when I get to a bad place, it's because my inner dialogue. I'm talking to myself in a way I would never talk to someone else, and I think that may be something that's going on with Jax. That he's just so hard on himself, and his inner. He's like, I'm stupid. I'm this. I'm that, and saying all these things, and it just gets him wound up. And then, the straw that breaks the camel's back could be anyone at any time. And he was spending the most time around Brittany, so she was always getting the brunt of it.
Yeah. I think that's really tough. And then I think it's also magnified when you're, on a television show, and
of course,
people are weighing. That's all really hard.
Yeah,
for sure. And Jax, self-admittedly, he feels this need that is not. No one else has said, Jax, we need you to perform, if you will. Yeah. He feels the need to always be the center of attention. And I think that's where like the lying comes from, which he has also admitted. It's like that much truth wasn't cool enough or interesting enough. But if I raise the stakes, it's going to be a way cooler story that people are going to be more interested in. But it's like, sometimes it's cool to just be chill. Yeah. And I've even tried to explain it to him in a way of like, if you don't want a comeback story for yourself in this exact moment, people love a good comeback story.
Right.
Your friends, we want to see you succeed. I know he said on your podcast, like, Brittany wants me to fail. What good would that do her?
Yeah.
It makes her life so much more difficult when Jax fails, you know? The better, I tell him all the time, as angry as I told him this whole summer long, as angry as I am and was at him, I want him to succeed. Because then Cruz has a happy father. Yeah. Then Brittany has someone happy to co-parent with. Jax's life is better. Brittany's life is better. Cruz's upbringing is better. Everyone wins if Jax succeeds.
Yeah, Brittany has said that out loud, that she really wants Jax to take those steps because it'll help everything.
Yeah.
Best thing possible for Cruz. And this all comes down to Cruz. Jax talks about Cruz too. It's like, if he can't do it for himself, do it for your son.
And if Jax starts focusing on himself and things that make him actually happy, things like projects, whether maybe it's the bar, I don't know, just things that start little successes in life. I mean, I know it works for me. Like, it's not always the greatest thing to associate your happiness with success, but if you have little wins that are just for you,
it make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, if it's stuff with the gym, or if it's stuff with his bar, or if it's like another little project, or it's like making his new condo look really awesome. Those are all small wins that just kind of like build up your self-esteem rather than your ego.
So you mentioned offhandedly, and I'm not going to let you get away with it without digging into this a little bit, that there are other people in the Vanderpump world and in the Valley world that also play the self-victimization game. Mm-hmm. Who?
Oh, I mean, at one point or another, Sheena, Lala for sure, Tom Sandoval. I think not Tom Schwartz. I think Katie does not do that anymore. I think Katie really owns her stuff. I think on the Valley, we saw that a lot from Jesse in the first season. I'm excited for people to see a shift in Jesse in season 2. I mean, there's no mistake. Like, I've been much more friendly with Jesse. Like, it's been seen a little bit. And there's a reason for that. We were not okay last summer. And I have known Jesse for quite a while, but we were never really close. And I can consider him a friend now, for sure. But he had to do a lot of work. But season 1 of The Valley, everyone saw it, just was like, this poor me, like, the world against me, no one understands me mentality. And that just, like, irritates me.
Watch the video edition of Bravo's Hot Mic podcast at bravotv.com/podcast, or listen for free wherever you get your podcasts.